Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 32 of Illium, our modded Cities 1 build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Last episode, this absolute mass of medium to high density apartments joined our central park hillside, giving us a nice little population expansion, pushing us toward 80,000 people in Illium now. But now that the 9 tiles have been thoroughly unlocked, it allows us to pop the 25 tile districts, which is what we'll be doing for the first time today as we return to the ASUS pyramid to build out the second half of the enormous cliffside park I've been planning here for quite a while, including the statue of Colossus and the completion of a full monorail ring in the west of Illium. But it should be a lot of fun indeed, and a happy Monday to you all. Welcome back to Illium, everyone. So there's a few things on the planning agenda today. First of all, we'll open 81 tiles and ask for our central 25 tile area to unlock. Now let's just have a little look what this opens up for us. Most of the peninsula is available now. This boundary hasn't really changed from the edge of the downtown. We're still the same over here. This space has opened up a little bit for us alongside all this valley area in the start of the city as well. Plus some little bits over here. We can finally build that factory over here now, which we might do next episode because water, power and sewage are all on the threshold. Plus we have high industrial demand as well. But today we're building a park, of course. What else? So yeah, there's a lot of planning to go on here. So let's get stuck into it, shall we? So I think I would like to link the roads in some sort of coastal formation. Now we do have a road down here, which I also want to introduce, I think, monorail back into this bit of the city as well. So I'm going to upgrade this road along the coast into a monorail track with 2-lane road and tram tracks. I'm going to send this all the way down, at least until the tram separates off, which it does there, which means that can just move down to regular monorail. I'm just doing this to try save nodes, rather than have it as a separate network along this pretty vast distance, to be honest. So let's just delete this actually, because this isn't necessary anymore. So this is going to come all the way to the top of the hill. Let's just have a look at topography. It's pretty gnarly over here. But I do want it to come essentially up to the top of the road here. And then I'm going to cross the monorail over the highway, whilst the tram terminates here, almost. So I just want to gauge a height where I can possibly come under the highway road here, because I would like this to be transitionable. That should do it. Let's push this out a touch. And then where does this start to come back to our landmass here? I do want to have quite harsh cliff edges in around here. I don't want to terraform a lot of this away. So I'm trying to leave us a little bit of it at least. Cool. And then from here, we also want to create a little bit of a slope back up to the central park. Well, not a central park, that's a different build. This is the ASUS pyramid, isn't it? Let's call it by name, because this is going to encompass a lot of our build area today. And then especially also up to the star fort as well, which of course is going to be included in today's build. We can reclaim probably a few thousand trees from here as well today, and also here as well. So let's bring the monorail road up to the top of our road here, on top of the hill. So from this point, we'll go back to tram only and develop a tram turnaround here. I'm just going to do that to remind myself of that there. It'll likely be pathways that go under the highway here and around the coast. And then off the back of this, we'll grab our monorail. And that can just go off like that. It's maybe a little sharp, isn't it? Let's do something like that, perhaps. Oh, it does sort of warp. I think Anarchy doesn't really like these connections, does it? It's better on a straight piece, I think, isn't it? And that can cross over the highway and meet up with this, which allows us to complete a full mirrored loop of monorail around this entire island now. We're going to send this right past the starfort. There will be another stop here somewhere, but we're going to need a pedestrian road for that, I imagine. So we'll worry about that in a second. Just roughly connecting them like that. Cool. So you can see how this will form now, because it runs a complete loop in this formation. So we can have something quite similar to what's going on with the figure of 8 in the central park around here. And the downtown as well, I suppose. So it's almost mirroring itself the opposite end of the island here. We're in a little bit of a death wave at the minute too. Have we got enough death care here? Yeah, we do. I think we're just in the middle of a death wave, aren't we? So we have roads over here already. So I think what I am going to do is bring these down into normal roads. So let's use the content creator roads for the entrance here. And I will keep the one-way system in. So we'll come this into non-parking road. It does affect the detailing slightly, but I can adjust that with move it. And then back to a regular non-parking road. I think this is the road we will use to accommodate the metro and the monorail. So we'll bring this down. We'll include a lot of car parking around here as well, with it being pretty touristic. So we'll have that there. I'd love to create a little monorail metro combo. I just want the regular monorail stop here, which will sit pretty much here. And then the metro stop I'm going to put there and then rotate it 90 degrees, which will leave it connected. It does affect the terrain there, of course, which it won't go out that way, but I'll just terraform that away, blend it back in. And then we can also connect this metro as well now. And drag that down to the new end of line. Great stuff. And let's not forget to add our stops back in here as well. Well, there is another stop here as well from that line, but I'm only going to drag one of them back to the park. They can transfer here at the Vaisala station over here. That's up to 1,000 people a week now. Great stuff. I imagine we'll significantly increase those numbers through this area today with this park build. And then hook the monorail into its position as well. So I think this red monorail, if I've named it, I'm not sure if I have, monorail line 1, no I haven't. I'm just going to delete that entirely now, because it's not really needed, because it doubled back on itself previously. So we'll start from here. And there probably is justification to have another monorail stop here. Then again, the tram is servicing that, and there's buses here too, so maybe I'll just keep the monorail long distance. Although it does stop like 3 times in quick succession here. That's fine though, that's in a campus, I don't mind that. Let's have it just at the start of the hill here, I think. Did monorail station with road. Which will sort of destroy the road hierarchy, because that's a 4-lane road, I'm pretty sure, isn't it? But it'll let us do some fun things with a little commercial centre around this building, I think. This will just be an extension of the Green City suburb up here. Just more outer line residential for us. That does break the tram line though, which is interesting, isn't it? Okay, how do we get around that problem then? Would bring the tram off like this. It's a little unconventional. But it would let me almost kind of form my own tram stop off the edge of the station. Tram police won't be happy, I don't think, with the 90-degree turns here. Okay, I'll work with it. I'll work with it. Sounds like a problem for detailing Egg anyway, so we'll let him worry about that. Let's also complete the tram line up here as well now it's not ending anymore. Just come and chill out there. Yep, and we'll also request it stop here as well. That could end up being a really fun design actually. I think that might end up working in our favour. Yeah, and then very simple now. I just want to adding new clockwise and anti-clockwise rings that run this entire metro loop for us, or monorail loop, so I'll be back when we've done this. Good news, everyone. We now have the monorails running in a ring. I'll briefly show you their overview. So we now have the ASUS ring clockwise and ASUS ring anti-clockwise. Both of these now run in full circle around the entire district, which is a long time coming. It was ages since we first set up these monorail lines. But the 25 tower projects allows us to complete the full ring. And of course, you got our tram running under this as well, which is such a unique collector road for this suburb to have. I think surrounding this with green cities will make it look particularly impressive. We can see it cross over. Probably want to bring that node there up so it's not dipping down like that. And then going back up like that. Wants a little bit of network multi-slope probably before it's ready for action. But the point is, it now flows, which is ultimately what we want here. Sweet, so let's turn our attention to the next unique building I want to use here. Which is going to be the Colossus statue, which is probably easier for me to search. It does want shoreline, but of course I'm going to manipulate it to how I want it to be. So I think having this almost like an entrance into the Bay of Illium over here, right, is going to be a great position for this asset. Right into the open waters here is where all our cruise liners arrive. Also, as a bit of a drive-by for the highway as well, right? Imagine you're driving over from Illium this direction. And you've just got this big, dramatic statue here. So I think that's what we're going to have this way anyway. And it is kind of happily sat at this height already for us, isn't it? Which is quite handy. So let's grab our non-parking road. I'm going to feed this down and under. And just so it can grab a connection. I do want to save some room out the front of it. But detailing opportunity. And I guess I could also bring this under as well. There's certainly enough clearance here for a road. Okay, I think I'll do it then. I don't think there's a need for me to bring the tram under here. There's metro and monorail already. And the tram actually goes all the way up into Central Park now, doesn't it? This is that same tram line that goes all the way down through the downtown city centre. There'll be two very good first-person tours to be enjoyed from both of these lines one day. Yes, I'll go with that then, I think. I'll go with that. And then I just want to push some terrain out so I can make that area there a little bit more detailable. Also want to correct some node heights to the same layers as well. Sweet. We'll certainly make this part of the Central Park. But would I prefer it, just to think out loud sort of briefly here, would I prefer it sat against the back of the monorail station? I think that is the positioning, isn't it? Now it does hate me because it has no road connection, but we can very easily just introduce a little pedestrian road for that. That much issue. Yeah, I want a service point, we'll worry about that later. Yeah, I think that's the idea there, isn't it? And then we'll have this just slightly off until it loses connection. Quite a distance. And then same height as the nodes on the road here. Yes, I think that's the better angle for it, isn't it? I'll still have that road going under the highway there. It'll be extra connectivity. We even have some off-ramps here as well. Where's the nearest come-off point? Down here. Not that this is very busy anyway. You okay, buses? Why are you all congregating together? You should be staggered by now. What's up with you? I guess there's two different lines stopping here, is there? There is, yeah. Might reroute one of those today. Cool. Well, either way, let's turn our attention to this big chunky space over here now. So I just spent some time reorganizing the pathways around the edge here and clearing some room for a new bit of the build, which is going to be made up of pedestrian roads, I think. But I would like this centralized with the node, so I'm just going to force this to bridge. Now it isn't staying as bridge, don't worry. And I just want it to be, then again, it doesn't really need to be, does it? I can just use the road guideline. Do 10 there. I'm going to do myself another 6. So that should be 16 from there. Yeah, pretty much. Wait, so I'll have this here. Now, I would like to use some mountain village assets for this. So we'll come into our unique buildings. And nothing too extravagant. I think maybe this one. Yeah, I think the other ones are all a bit too big. We could also partner this with some of its props as well. If we come into here and filter for mountain village. There's the buffet, gazebo park, stage, restaurant, picnic area, and mountain gate. That's probably all of them that I want, I think. Really after outdoor recreation for this. And perhaps a bit of a visitor's centre available in this building as well. Yeah, which is not sat centrally, but we'll make sure it is. A big shout out as well in the Discord to Ed Pud, who finished this build in his Illium build along before me. And I did some excellent work on it. I'll leave some screenshots up of Ed's build. Of his Illium build along in the video. Really nice work, Ed. So I want these to be correlated. So that's open air restaurant, that's the buffet. Picnic area, gazebo park, and mountain stage. So I want the open air restaurant next to the buffet, I think. So we'll move this across. And we'll have it next door to our master building. Don't worry about pedestrian area. We'll build a service point into this at some point today. And then we'll have this next door. Just keep setting to the same height. And can we fuse these roofs here? Basically make it part of the same building if we can. Yes. Yes, I like that, I think. This can't connect in anywhere. I did think about turning this into, this pathway into pedestrian road. But I don't really want to take away from the pyramid. I feel like if we start adding too much chunk, it's going to just make it look a little weird. So I don't want to do that. We'll come in with a pathway. Let's do zoo path. And just feed that straight down here. We'll also get lots of park life assets in here today. Probably a couple of zoo buildings, bird houses, etc. The little gazebo park here, I think I'll stick just down toward the end. And partner this with it as well. That just tucked in as far as we can have it disconnected. Quite far, actually. There we go. Both of these to the same height as the node on the path. Perfect. And then we have this, which I wouldn't mind. Gate can go away for just right now. Clipping this over the approaching pathway, perhaps. We'll have some node discrepancies while we're coming downhill. I think it's all pretty hideable. I mean, the path sits perfectly, doesn't it? In here. I think I'll be on board with that. Do we have a park area around here already? We should do. This gate's at the front, isn't there? Yes, there is. Wonderful. That's very handy for me. Let's push that over. We'll have to save some room for pedestrian area, not forgetting. Essentially, all this will become the pyramid of Arcus Park now. Beside the central pedestrian area, obviously. Sweet. Let's give this a road connection. Possibly back into the Star Fort, which I think is where we'll let people turn up from. And we can probably stretch all this out. Push orange and green back a little bit. Really make it quite the grand entrance into the park. There we go. Yeah, we've got some pretty tight and nasty nodes around here as well, don't we? Yes, we do. Let's just use node controller to adjust those a little bit. Just so they're not red and tight is really what we want. Oh, sweet. We have people walking through our little building here now. They're actually stopping to enjoy it as well. I suppose that makes sense. It is an attraction, I guess. Good. And the view from our bandstand over here too. Nice view of the highway. And the monorail, of course. What else? Wonderful. Brilliant. But I don't think they're drawing too much. I was thinking of possibly having an Africa asset in here as well. I think I might just give it a little bit of a test. Just to see if it's something I do want to pursue. Something set back a little further from this mountain village asset. Just to give ourselves another T. I think it's either that one, but I wouldn't also mind considering some of these smaller numbers as well. Perhaps something a little bit more discreet. I think this one does partner the pyramid quite well actually because it's so green. Probably more so than any of the others. Okay, yeah, I think I'm sold on that then, immediately, without much persuading at all. we'll use that. And then actually giving this a road connection, because I don't want this to start getting weirdly boxy. I just don't want too many pedestrian roads through the area, I don't think. So we'll go for that. I do want to do a little bit of terraforming around it. I think I'd like kind of a ring of pathways emanating from this building to respect its circular vibes, I suppose. We'll sit with the pathway. And then let's just... Yeah, so we have these pathways entirely encompassing the building. And then bring them down in perfect 90-degree angles to multiple spaces. Wouldn't mind crossing the highway here into the next suburb. Something like that. We'll probably blend that in a little easier once we have the roads in around that. I think maybe even some more. Just position these nodes around the edge of the asset. A little more. Thank God for move it in this instance. It will allow us to correct all of that. Yeah, I think I do want this almost like kind of radial star pattern, I suppose, coming off this building. Just like that. It will allow us to really, I think, landscape the gardens around it. It's kind of dividing it up into chunks for us, isn't it? Yeah. And all that'll sit just essentially with the pyramid pretty much behind it as well. Yeah, okay. I think I'm happy with that then. A little bit more of an eccentric asset in here. I might not be super happy with this connection here either. I'll just leave that as pathways. Yeah, I'm happy with that, I think. We're also getting loads of people walking up here as well now. We've got 100 on the monorail and 70 on the metro. Surprised the monorail's busier than the metro, actually. That is quite good. Love how they're immediately jumping from one method to the next as well. Isn't that wonderful? Great stuff. So I think I'm happy with the general layout of things now, orientation of key assets. We just have a big park time-lapse ahead of us. I'm going to fill all of this with lots of landscaping, bushes and trees of various repeating patterns. Further into the park, in orbit with the pyramid, I think some bird houses from the zoo. Stuff might work quite nicely here. And the same thing again, lots of landscaping and services and props to embellish our current buildings. I love how busy this asset is. I'm actually just considering... Now I've come back to it with somewhat fresh eyes. Possible rotation, I think. Maybe a little rotation there. Yeah, that way I think I can form a wall off of this one here. Almost kind of encasing the pyramid within its own enclosure within the park space, maybe. Really want to try and get a lot of use out of these mountain village assets today. But otherwise... We'll settle in, and then either side of the park, here and here, this is just going to be generic outer-lying green cities residential to finish off the builds that it's coming out from. You can see where this pattern's just going to continue up into these spaces here as the cliff takes over, with lots more rocks and trees to bring it in. So as always, grab yourself some snacks, and we'll be right back with detailing time-lapse. Alright guys, let's have a little detailing review, shall we? I ended up leaving the bottom half of the hill here. This was turning into quite the massive space, and I thought this would probably be justified as a separate Green Cities beach town build, so we'll come back here to finish this corner. Beyond that, the radial park is looking absolutely fantastic as an entrance into this side of Illium. And coincidence or otherwise, kind of wasn't intentional, but has worked out this way. As you enter and leave, I guess, mainland downtown Illium here, you enter by park, and you also leave by park over at the edge, which is actually part of the same monorail line, which is super cool. Yeah, I love how that's transitioned. Wasn't kind of a grander scheme of the plan, we just happened to have two giant parks just where we start and enter the city here. Over by the monorail station we have Green Cities, a little bit of props here. Did some node controller work just to lessen the angle on the tram roads here, just a little bit of rotation and shifting on a single node either side of the station. So I'm quite happy with how that ended up turning out. We also have a park down here, and now we have our monorails and trams flowing right along the coast. We will do, I think I might include it in this video actually, want a bit of a monorail first person tour before the cinematics. You know what, let's go ahead and throw that in now actually. That's a pretty nice tour, that, isn't it? You see some real nice gradients and different builds as you transition that monorail. Back to the detailing review. Over here we just have parks and residential, simple ideas that span this whole suburb. More of this, you know. It's a hillside, outer-lying sprawl of downtown. It's always happy to add on to. Up here we have a bit more commercial, just general Main Street vibes, and then also Converge. The tram turnaround to be a bit further down the road as the monorail carries on, and then the tram just loops back here. Cuts into a path network which takes people down into the suburb, and of course back into today's park as well. So always happy to see elevated zoo path of all of them as well, getting some nice walking action. And also downgraded the highway to low speed road, essentially just until it leaves here. Where there is also now a new turnoff. I mentioned some extra highway ramps. I haven't added on one this way because I don't really want the highway traffic navigating a low density suburb. If you want to get on the highway, then go to one of the main intersections on the couplet system, right? But considering this is National Highway, I'm actually left wondering, have they actually stopped using this road as a through connection? Because they'll travel from outside connection to outside connection. And when we started here, this road was busy. But I think now they're possibly taking this way to come across the bridge, this side of the river, to get back to this outside connection. So the people transitioning this way, I don't actually think they're passing through downtown anymore, because the couplet is so quiet. And I know public transit is taking a lot off it, but yeah, it feels like that's not happening anymore because it's so long and quite slow compared to what it used to be, at least. But that's fine by me. There's not too many people on this couplet system. And that does take people back out. Maybe when we start building the other side of the rivers here. Although I have absolutely no idea what's going on over here. I haven't even considered that landmass just yet. Anyway, back to our roads. We come under, which is getting some nice use as well. I'm quite happy I connected this in now, because there's quite a few people using it to pass back under the highway into the suburb. Over at our monorail station, which is getting quite busy. We have a few people here. We also suffered massive death waves. It is calming down now as well. Yeah, we lost about 3,500 people in a death wave. You probably saw it, all the deaths in the detailing. Loads of them. 110 through the monorail station and 141 through the metro, which is very nice indeed. Super happy with those numbers. See a little bit of an example of that now. There's the clockwise one. We'll wait for the anti-clockwise to come in. So both sides of it getting some really tasty use. And of course, immediately, not even walking down the stairs, they're just jumping down straight into the metro. Kind of like, almost like Mario jumping down a pipe, isn't it? Just straight down. Out here, some basic detail and some bells to front, concrete textures, cannons, flower beds, signage, and ice cream truckage alongside some floating sims here. Looks like they're just taking a brief walk over to the other side there. There you go. But case in point here, big views of the water, the mountains, and specifically the cruise ships passing under the bridge are the vibes I wanted from this asset. It just come in really nicely. And then just did some safety fencing so people don't drive off cliffside. Using the new upgrade fence to road mechanic, of course. Into the radial park, pretty much only the left channel on the bottom one is getting use, which is really annoying. Would love people to walk down all of them, but I guess it makes sense with them coming from the public transit over here. So this is really nice. I love the centralization we have going on with the paths up to the 3 assets that are all in line with each other. A simple detailing, very much like the central park. I wanted these open green spaces to simply be just that. Some repetitive tree patterns, but are really allowing the eye to draw up to the main assets. Didn't want to cram all this space with loads of props. Lots of landscaping in various different forms, rows of vanilla trees, circles, lots of classic OE hedge lining pretty much everywhere around the garden here. And then went for some fusing with the mountain village stuff. Glued 2 buffets to the back of the building here, which I think turned out really nicely. I like how this all sits. Just looks like this building is extended now, doesn't it? And then the stage along the back there as well, which is just about close enough to be connected, which is really nice. So people can come here and enjoy a show, and of course I guess it's more the people on stage that have the view. but you're at least within the atmosphere, aren't you? I actually really love the view over to the service point there as well. That helps service the park. Picnic space down here, which is nice. And then some parking. Got a diner over here as well from Mid-Century Modern. One of the restaurants. I think sits quite nicely in the park, doesn't it? Always open, Janet's restaurant. Very nice. Janet's a hard-working woman. And then fencing and signage around Teddy's fort to simply respect what is here. I don't want to do too much change here, really. It is exactly what it is, a tourist attraction where people can come and view and enjoy said times gone by, destroyed buildings, etc. The historians will be all over this. So that'll be a lot of fun for them. I just left in all of Teddy's detailing. I try not to change these little forts. Orchid Bays, Slanesh Slipper Park as a prime example of sort of working with what's on the map and just embedding it into the city. And I think the Star Fort works really nicely in the grounds of the big ziggurat space here, doesn't it? Kind of a perfect accompaniment, really. Next to this is a service point that services the park with just simple detailing, chain link fence around it. And I've also sought to bring the monorail down to ground level, which is actually regular level because there's a terrain shift here. I guess you get more of a sense of it that way. So it passes ground level by the service point, which looks absolutely awesome. And we'll wait for a monorail to pass. Of course, the moment I want one. There's one nowhere to be seen. Come on, monorail. There we go. There we go. So isn't that cool, just having it... Well, here's two of them. Having it pass right by the building like that. Even left a little bit of a hole in the fence here, as if it's perhaps monorail admin. Maybe the service point here also maintains the monorail in the park. So, don't mind that at all. And then this will swoop down. Probably won't add another stop onto this, purely due to the height gradient, but we'll certainly return here for a Green Cities themed beach, I think. An extension of what we've got going on down here, but perhaps a little bit less touristic and more locals residential beach as opposed to tall hotels and towers and €5 for a sun lounger, etc. A bit less of that. So happy with how that turned out. Up into the park, went with one of the park life fences on the prop line tour, which we very rarely use. So I'm happy to see that appear here. Just runs up to the edge of the building with some hedgerows. There's also lighting in here as well, you'll see in the nighttime cinematics plugged into the wall here. Just to illuminate the green vibes we have around the ziggurat garden. And this ended up disconnecting because its connection is actually this side where it wants to sit on the road, so did a pedestrian pathway through the middle to allow the park life path to meet it. That way I can have it this direction without it being disconnected from the road. And I really liked how that worked. I've been trying to want to use particularly this asset and the mountain gate one for quite a while. But they're kind of awkward. You definitely need movement and anarchy, I think, to get the best out of these assets. But I'm really happy with it there. It really separates the, I guess, internal entertainment space from this other area. And then there is just park life assets in here. Birdhouses, a little bit more picnic space. Rock retaining walls and nature reserve buildings. Just general green, happy vibes all the way through here, right? Again, with really nice central views back to the new assets. I guess it is a bit of a shame the statue of Colossus isn't centralized here, but that's fine. This is really the main priority here, having these buildings in line with each other. Back up to the top of the ziggurat, which also, of course, now has mighty downtown sat behind it, doesn't it? Which is so big. Like you can even see just about the renewed history buildings over there. So, yeah, I really like how the park turned out. It's a beautiful expansion out the back of it. Particularly up to this area here. I really love this view of this kind of like radial park as a bit of an introduction and entrance into the very west of Illium. So super cool. Love this building here. We'll also go ahead and check out last episode's build as well. And just make sure our residentials are getting on fine. Let's see if anyone's also decided to pick up this monorail here, because it was quite quiet, wasn't it? 92 is a little better. Anyone at the top yet? This has to be getting used now. 2. Finally. Someone used it. It's been sat at 0 for ages. But yeah, I think everyone's pretty happy around here, aren't we? Our buses are still flowing, not backing up either. See if anyone's actually getting on and off. Yeah, a few getting on. But otherwise, traffic back to the couple I think is pretty healthy. So many people living here from last episode, isn't there? People are walking through. Oh, I know what I didn't do. I changed the height of the monorail, but not the height of the light. So let me bring that up just so it touches the line again. There should be a couple of other of these as well. See, it's always worth a review. There's always something that I miss or forget about. Don't worry, lighting, please. He's on the job. Yeah, having the path nodes, or at least any kind of connecting building node immediately next to a monorail station makes them behave kind of weird, doesn't it? But you'd love to see all the residents here, taking that monorail back into the big residential district. Good stuff. Anyway, back to the park today. Which has really been a wonderful build. I've thoroughly enjoyed putting this together. There's been so many massive green park spaces in Illium to contend with. But I think it's left the city looking quite unique when all's said and done. I do want to turn them down a little bit because I do want some density. There is a lot of green space and breaking up large chunks of Illium. So moving back out of the downtown spaces, I'll probably cool off on so many big, massive, landscaped, unique building parks, if you like. Otherwise, a massive shout out to the YouTube members and patrons bankrolling these videos with a roll call to our golden patron eggs. Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Wolfo, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, Great C, Bryce Johnson, Sean, and Trevor Larson. Thank you so much indeed for all of your incredible support. If you want to get involved in that, links are down below to Instant Gaming and Patreon should you wish to help support the videos. Otherwise, hang around for the cinematics and I'll see you next episode, either for a power plant build, I think, because the city's desperate for some industry and utility. It's been quite a while since the downtown project's been going on, really. We haven't had a chance to introduce any of that. But the 25 tiles have opened up some spaces I'm considering for factory districts. So next episode maybe, or that Green Cities beach. Either way, see you next time, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.